sunshine.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to episode 43 of Coffee Thoughts podcast. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, so I want to give you guys some updates before I get into the episode. So after a very interesting couple weeks of soul searching, I don't know, like I made this whole episode last week about like my experience in the UK and coming back to the city and how that affected me, and it's interesting because one thing that I wanted to try or wanted to kind of experiment with was how much did the city, like living here, actually have an impact on me. So what I did was when I got back, I stayed at my dad's for, let's say, like 3 or 4 days and kind of stayed out in the country for a while to try to kind of preserve that feeling that I was having, and it worked. And then I came back to the city and I start to, like, this kind of anxiety comes back and everything feels kind of how it did before. So it kind of made me realize, like, the environment really does have an impact. I think you can kind of make the best of any environment that you're in, but I wanted to see. So that's been interesting to kind of like understand, because I think that puts a lot of my anxieties and thoughts in perspective, you know, because it's one of those things where I think you have to take responsibility for as much of your own stuff as you can, but sometimes there are like circumstances that do affect the way that you operate, and I think that's okay. I think like sometimes you just feel the way you feel and it's not your fault necessarily. I think you always have a choice in how you act, you know, whether or not you act out of those things. But anyway, so I'm going to talk about that kind of stuff today. Yeah, anyway, so update. So I have this 5-song EP, I guess. I do so many EPs, like, I don't know. Anytime I write a song, except for like Pavement, that was kind of a one-off thing. Most of the time though, it's like I always write a couple in conjunction with one another. So anyway, so I dropped an acoustic session for a song called Anxiety last Friday, and this Friday is going to be a song called Colorado. And every Friday for the next couple weeks, until there's 5, I'm going to be putting out just like a live acoustic session, playing through all those songs. And I just literally sat down and recorded, like, I didn't even do multiple takes, I just did one take of each song, so they're definitely not perfect, but I kind of wanted to go for that vibe. And so what I'm going to be doing, because everything I talked about in my last episode is still how I feel as far as acoustic music, I just happen to already have these songs done. So I have like 5 full tracks of these songs that I'm going to be releasing, and it's called the Nosebleed EP, and I actually did the photo shoot for it yesterday with the Nosebleed character that I made, and it turned out really sick. But what I'm doing is I'm going to be dropping the full EP with the full tracks, and then at the same time, or like right after, an acoustic version of the record with the same 5 tracks, just like completely acoustic. So I did an album cover for each that kind of go together, because I fucking am obsessed with like duality, and I just think it's really cool to do that kind of thing. So I'm going to be doing that, and after that, which will be over the summer, and I'm going to try to draw it out as much as I can, because I release a lot of content, like a lot of music, I think, compared to a lot of artists. Like, some people release a song a month, which is awesome, but I feel like I'm always making new stuff. So what I'm gonna do is try to draw this release out a little bit, and then I am going to take some time to write an acoustic record, and I don't know what that's gonna entail. If that means I'm gonna go somewhere, I think I am planning to go somewhere, but I just want to have this music out, and then I just want you guys to know, like, I feel like I need to get back to that. And like I said, I just happen to have these like 5 tracks done. I think they're awesome. I think like making that kind of stuff is a lot of fun. Like, it really is a lot of fun. But anyway, so I want to write kind of something that's like Between the Roses. I still want to do Beneath the Roses, which will be the second part to the Between the Roses record. So that might be my next project. But either way, it's going to be acoustic. So there's that, and I'm gonna try to print the rest of the Stay Cozy shirts today and get those up on my Depop, which is Braden Berry. If you want to download the app and follow me on there, try to get those up ASAP. It's gonna take me a while, but my goal is to print them today. I think that's pretty much it. I don't have any touring lined up at the moment. I'm still working on the screenplay with my buddy Micah, and yeah, it's really coming together. Like, it really is coming along, and we're gonna get together this weekend and try to finish it. And we also filmed something that we wrote. If you follow my Instagram, you saw some clips. It's called The Gentleman Stoners, and I don't really smoke weed anymore. It's just I think like the Canadian kind of stoner culture is like fucking hilarious, and just stoner culture in general. Like, I love it. I support it. I just think it's funny how some people in Canada, like people I grew up around, kind of talk and are super serious about like that kind of thing. So we just wrote this kind of series, and we shot the first episode, or like a bit of the first episode. We have to finish it, but I was editing it last night. I think it's really funny. So it's the first time I've actually like filmed anything that wasn't a music video in a long time, and it's weird because like it almost seemed like I've done more of that kind of thing, because I think about it a lot. And then we were shooting it, and I was like, damn, like I haven't just like spoken like lines on a camera for except like doing these, but that doesn't really count. I just mean like, yeah, it was weird. It was really fun though, a lot of fun. So that'll be out at some point too. But for now, let me get into the podcast. Obviously, finally got Starbucks for the episode. Venti iced Americano, delicious. 4 shots of espresso. It's great. Alright, so today I wanted to talk about some of the things that I struggle with personally. Okay, so let me put this into some context. I did a video about this a long time ago. It's called I Struggle Too, I think. And it was inspired by one of my friends, Damon Fizzy, who is still one of my good friends. He made a video about that kind of thing, and I remember I made one. But I don't know, I wanted to kind of do like an updated kind of talking about that, because I think I probably give a lot of like insight or like, you know, perspectives on things, but I don't know if I share enough like what I actually like personally struggle with on a daily basis, because I think, you know, sometimes when you watch people, like even for me, it's like the people that I look up to and that I gather information from, it kind of seems like they have it all figured out, you know what I mean? And if they ever do touch on the things that like they actually like have to actively fight against within themselves, it's actually like, I think it's some of the most helpful information, at least like for me, because it's like when you realize like somebody you look up to, or somebody that you like, you know, appreciate their perspective, like when they are able to say like, no, I go through this specifically, and this is what I do in order to counteract that, or in order to you know, transcend that, like that to me is like, oh shit, like that makes you feel like you can do it as well. So yeah, I just kind of want to talk about some of the stuff, and I'm sure you guys probably like have an idea, or I've said enough in my episodes or in person or like through my music that you can probably understand. But it's something that like you know, I don't know if I've ever just like talked about in the last couple of years. And it changes, you know, it does. Like, I think the things that I talked about in that video I was referencing, which is somewhere on my YouTube channel, a lot of it was like physical insecurity. A lot of it was like about my teeth, and I think I talked about like my legs or my body shape or something, which are things that like I honestly like I don't care. I don't struggle with as much anymore, you know, because I've really tried to do a lot of work to like be okay with how I was created, and to be okay with like my flaws, which aren't really flaws, and like just to even learn like what a flaw is to you, it doesn't really mean that it is to somebody else, or at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a flaw. And like until you interpret something as wrong or as like, you know, incorrect or imperfect, it's not anything. So I think just having that understanding, so building perspective has really helped me to get over those kind of things, and to realize that, you know, confidence is really like what people pick up on. So even if you have like, you know, let's just say you have really bad acne or something, if you're just confident and you don't put attention on it, people aren't even gonna notice that shit. And it's really strange how like the psyche works, you know, in that kind of way. You know what I mean? It's like people aren't looking for those things, and I think if you kind of learn how to carry yourself a little bit better, it really helps a lot. So anyway, so what I'm kind of saying is like the things that I struggle with on a daily basis are less like that kind of thing, and more, I'd say, deep-rooted kind of thing. So let me try to talk about this. I didn't really like prepare anything, but I just figured it's always best to just wing it and see what comes out. So I think one thing that I really have a hard time with, it's one of those things that it's a blessing and a curse. You know, it's something that keeps pushing me forward, but also like really pulls me down as well. And I don't really know what, like, there's like a term for it, but I never feel like I do enough, ever. No matter what I do, no matter how hard I work, no matter what I create, I never feel like it's enough. And I don't know exactly where that comes from, because I try to go back and figure out like where things come from, like as far as like maybe something that happened to me as a child, or like what I saw as a kid. But it's just kind of this weird force that is like always like, you need to do this, you need to make something. So I'll make something, you know, I'll put hours and hours into like creating something, and then I'll have it, and then, you know, it's like, oh, that's not enough, you have to do something else, you know. And it's this kind of like constant push and pull, like I said, which like really does help me to keep working. And I think I owe like some of my work ethic to whatever part of my psyche that is. But at the same time, I kind of eventually sometimes will build up to the point of like I just don't feel like I'm enough, or like I'm good enough. Like I understand that there's no that's just really a concept, and there's no, like, nobody's better or less than anyone. But it's just kind of this thing that will sometimes weigh me down, you know, especially it's like if I have a record done or like a song done, you know, a week will go by and I just like, I don't feel like it's good enough, so like I have to like put it out. And I feel like that's part of why I put out so much music. So it doesn't really sound like it's that bad, it's really not, but it's just something that it's like my brain is just always going, and it kind of gets exhausting sometimes. But at the same time, like, I love working, and I love doing that kind of thing. And I probably wouldn't have, you know, I would probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if I didn't have that. But it is a struggle sometimes. I'm sure some of you guys can probably relate to that. It's like, but I think part of that maybe stems from the anxiety of society, and like always feeling like you need to be moving forward, And I think that's part of it, because we're so conditioned to you know, believe and buy this like linear timeline of life that's like you have to always be racing towards something or you're gonna fail, and it's like almost something's chasing you. And that's kind of another thing that I struggle with, is fear. It's like dread. And like as much as I have, you know, a pretty solid, at least like for me, a pretty solid understanding and perspective on life and reality that keeps me like somewhat grounded, there's still this like underlying sense of dread. And I have to, if I don't really keep myself in a good spot, like spiritually or mentally, like that, it will just start to like really sink in. And I don't even know what it is. It just almost feels like something's chasing me, and it's like something really bad is gonna happen at some point. So you better fucking get to work, and you better like figure your shit out. It's this maybe this made up kind of force again that might be tied into like the thing that always keeps me trying to move forward and work. But it can get scary sometimes, man. Like it's because I don't know what it is, you know what I mean? It's because there's not like an actual thing. It's just like these kind of worst case scenarios are just playing out in my head. Like I can't even do anything about it except watch it and let it just be there. Especially like, you know, at nighttime, like when I'm just laying in bed, like after the day's done and I'm just laying there, and like even then it's like you shouldn't go to sleep, you need to be doing something. And it's just like that'll happen, you know. Again, like if I don't keep myself in a good spot, like as far as like energy and you know, spiritually or just like balance, like that can really like, you know, fuck with me. And that's another thing too. I think like I'm very, very, very sensitive to like that kind of stuff. Like I can feel immediately when I'm leaning one way or leaning the other way. And I say that in regards to like, you know, light or dark, like, because I really think like that's part of why I love duality so much, because I've experienced it so much in my life that there's these two sides. Like I think all of us have it. It's like it's a battle every day to stay on, you know, the side of like light, or what you know feels right, feels good, feels like love and, you know, purity and just like purpose. And there's this whole other side that's like meaninglessness, dark, like, you know, sadness, anger, emptiness. Like there's these two complete opposite things that are, I think, always existing within. So I think that's part of why I've had to necessarily make it a point to like just learn more and like just meditate more, or at least just like develop like a broader perspective, because if I'm not like staying in touch with that to some degree, then like the other side is like actively always waiting for a moment to just like try to pull me down. And I know it sounds really crazy, but I think like when you become aware of it more, it makes more sense, and you'll start to like see it, and it's like almost this like thing that you have inside you that you just have no control over. It's just this kind of dark thing that's just like literally sitting there waiting for an opportunity, waiting for one thing to happen that causes like, you know, you to be angry, or like a thought of doubt or fear, and it just like, it will just, as soon as it happens, like if you're not careful, it'll just like spring up and start multiplying those thoughts and feelings. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's one thing that I think, because I've become like hyper aware of myself in that way, it's just always feeling it. And that's another thing too, I think I have a hard time with, is that I'm hyper aware of fucking everything. And again, like a lot of these things are blessings and curses, as far as like they fuel my whole, like what I do, like with my creations and my music and just like my kind of existence, like it kind of fueled by like these battling forces, because I've kind of decided to try my best to you know, express them in a positive way, like as much as I can, because I'm a human, like I fuck up, you know what I mean? But I think one thing that I really have a hard time with is, like I said, being hyper aware, and most of the time that's of people. So like for an example, like if I meet somebody like new, like just say like I'm at like a get together and I meet somebody new, like I will notice every single time they make eye contact with me, when they don't, like their little mannerisms that they do, the way that they say words to me, which will, like, it's almost like I'm like plugging into their brain while they're speaking to me, and like it's like even if they said something, if they meant something else, I would know. Like I always know that shit, and I know it sounds like kind of cocky, but it's not. It's just something that I have. Like I feel like I always know what somebody means when they say something, or what somebody's intention is. I always feel it, and it sucks because a lot of times that really illustrates how fake we are on the surface, you know. It's not even that everyone, you know, it's not like necessarily people have bad intentions. It's just like like people will talk to you and they don't actually fucking care. You know, they don't care how you feel. They don't really they don't mean what they're talking about. They're just doing it. And like everyone's guilty of that. Like we all do that. It's just kind of how we function. But like for me, I notice that all the time. So I piece things together a lot as far as like, you know, interactions between other people. Even if I'm watching two people talk, if they're joking, let's just say they're joking and making fun of each other, like I know when they mean it and when they're actually being hurt, and like that kind of shit. Like I always know that kind of thing, and it to a point sometimes like drives me like crazy, because it's just like I just want to be able to enjoy like the surface level of reality sometimes, but I can't anymore. And that's part of the reason I don't like really smoke weed, because it really brings all that stuff forward, and I feel like that's already kind of part of like my base perspective, so it just gives me so much anxiety, so I don't do it. What else? I mean, honestly, I'm just kind of talking about these things because I feel like it might help some of you to understand like the things that I actively have to battle. Let me talk about vices, I guess. I've always had a hard time with like cigarettes and alcohol as well. Cigarettes are kind of self-explanatory. It's just, you know, they suck, and thankfully I was able to quit. But with alcohol, that's one thing that I feel I've really had a bad experience with in this lifetime. Like, let me try to explain this. I think some people react to it completely differently. And I think a lot of like how you are when you're intoxicated is reflective of like what you have going on when you're sober, and you know, reflective of who you, like your personality. But one thing that like, because I started drinking like when I was like, I don't know, 17 maybe, got when I was on tour, it's just kind of something that happens, you know. It's just like people, like you're playing at bars, you get free alcohol, people that do music, you know what I mean, like a lot of people party and drink and whatever. So I was introduced to it pretty young, and it's not like, it's never been something that like I've just been drinking and drunk all day every day. Like I've never gone through that, but it's this thing that like there's been patches of my life. Again, the kind of thing this comes back to like this like dark side that is there. It's like alcohol to me has been a massive doorway for that darkness to you know, peek itself through. And I feel like with alcohol, for me at least, it's become a very dangerous thing, because it's not even that you know, I'll get like blackout drunk and go do a bunch of stupid shit. It's not really that. It's just, even if I drink like, you know, a couple drinks, or like I do it like one day in a week, it will pull me into that like dark place for, could be like a week, like until I like really work to get out of it. It's just been something that like I've noticed like stirs that up inside of me. And so but it's always been a struggle, because it's just like there's, I think with anything, you know, in moderation, it can be good, it can be helpful for like, you know, doing certain things, or like being more confident, or like being creative or something. So that's like kind of always been a struggle, because my brain is just always like, I don't know, it's very like back and forth with a lot of that stuff. It's like it's always trying to justify those things to itself and be like, you can just have one, or you can go do this, like it's okay because you've done all this work, so you've earned it, like that kind of shit. Like I have to, like, I'm also very thankful that I have a perspective that's like beyond that, so I can at least see when that's happening. But I've definitely struggled with that in my life, and you know, there's been patches where, you know, I've consistently drank alcohol, and it completely flips reality around, and it turns it into a very dull, dark place. And I think you can function, for me, like at least I can function, but it's completely different life, you know, for that patch. And then when I'm not doing that all the time, and I'm focused on, you know, spirituality and meditation, like learning and working, it's like reality is completely different. And so I've really noticed it's like as above, so below, like that kind of idea of like this flipped thing. It's like there's always two going on. You can kind of decide which one you want. So that's been like a vice that I've struggled with in my life. I'm very thankful that I've never like gotten into like hard drugs or anything. And I think I don't know like what people think when, you know, when they meet somebody who's a musician or a touring artist. I think I don't know really, honestly, really like what the perspective collectively still is of those people. I think for me growing up, it was like, I thought it was like partying and like just this whole rock star thing, and it's not. Like, I mean, I think probably like some people in some corners, but at least I'm just saying, like from my experience, like I've never gotten into hard drugs, and that's something I'm very thankful for. I've been around it, you know, I've had opportunities, of course, but it's just never been something that I wanted to do. And so I'm thankful for that. But so I just wanted to kind of explain, like, alcohol has been like a vice, and I think I've written about it a little bit. But I think there's just a lot of things that can trigger that dark side, because I think that's really ultimately like what I think all of us are kind of trying to avoid, no matter what way you look at it or personify it. I think that's kind of the point of what you do every day, is to not be in that place when you go to bed and when you wake up, and try to help other people from being in that place as well. So let me see. Social anxiety, I think I've gotten over quite a bit. I don't have as much problem like talking to people now. I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on how to carry myself, and how to just like relax, you know, more so like when I'm talking to people, or just like strangers, or just like having conversations. And again, I think a lot of that comes from building perspective. Honestly, like, because it's just something that like I wasn't like intending to do, or necessarily, or like trying to do, but it's like the more you kind of educate yourself on your own emotions, your own being, your psyche, like as much as you can, because like you can go to school for years and years for like psychology or something, and like you can learn more than anyone's ever gonna learn, but it's like as much as you can on your own time, just educate yourself a little bit on how you work, because we're not taught that shit. Like we're taught like to ignore that and focus on external reality, and we're not taught how we work, and that I feel like is the #1 thing that we should understand in order to function. But we're not taught that, so you have to go out of your way to understand those things, at least like a little bit. So I think no matter how much effort you put into that in whatever area that is, you're still probably going to have an edge on 99% of people, because I don't think vast majority of the population will ever even think to do that kind of thing. So I think like if you put work into like, oh, let's just see like, okay, if I meditate, like what could happen? You know, how could that change my brain? Like, you know, you get to the point where it's like, oh wow, like I realize that there's this like awareness beyond my thoughts. Like even if you get to that point and you actually understand that like there is an awareness that is aware of you, instead of like just being caught in the you all the time, like you're ahead of like the vast majority of people, and even that in itself will spiral to help you detach from all this bullshit over time if you keep putting work into that, or even just like, I don't know, man, just doing some research on like what body language means, or how you should like, you know, walk in order to appear just like more confident, or just even feel more confident, because there are ways to do things, to just switch little things that will actually like help you feel better, which in turn helps other people view you in a different way. Just even watch some fucking YouTube videos about it. Like I'm just saying, like if you do those kind of things even a little bit, you're going to have an edge on people, and most importantly, you're going to have an edge on yourself, because that is the most important thing and the hardest thing. So anyway, probably just only talk about a couple more, because it's probably pretty long, and it's Wednesday, so I gotta get this edited before it's too late. Yeah, let me just a couple more things. So one thing I think that I'm always kind of battling, as well as like trying to accept, is impermanence of life. Because I think once you become like hyper aware of the fact that like life is impermanent, as far as like we know, maybe I think ultimately awareness and existence and consciousness maybe is infinite, and you know, there's not really any real death aside from like our physical death, but like our life as like identifying as a human is impermanent. I think no matter what way you put it, even if it's like, oh, you know, if you really do believe that we are all just one thing and we're all the universe, you know what, you get fucking attached to your human identity, and like that's obviously gonna happen. Like I'm gonna miss Braden, like I'm gonna miss this life, like when I die, you know, if that's possible. It's like, man, like it's been fucking great, and you spent so much time with yourself. You get attached to it, and you get attached to your family and your friends and what you do. And I always think a very valuable practice is to like just imagine, you know, because it's very easy to take things for granted and to be like, my life sucks. But just think about this, man. If you go to sleep tonight and you never ever wake up again, you never get to experience anything ever again. You never get to tell your, you know, your parents that you love them, even if you hate them. You never get to like see fucking Starbucks again. You never get to like eat a slice of pizza ever again. You never get to watch a TV show. You never get to hear music ever again. You never get to you know what it feels like to sleep in on a weekend. Never get to see the snow. You never get to lay on the beach and just like feel the sun and just listen to the waves. You never get to hug somebody. You never get to feel love from anyone. You never get to fall in love. You never get to go through heartbreak. You never get to you know, anything. I'm just like getting emotional thinking about it, but it's like, yo, imagine that. Imagine that, man. So fucking appreciate the fact that you get to do all those things now, because it's not going to last forever. And that is one thing that the more it's kind of sank in, and the more I've tried to just like face that idea, it is hard, because I think about like my family like dying, or my friends dying, or like that I might have to experience that in my life. You know, well, it's like I have experienced death in my life before, but like that's at some point is looming. You know what I mean? Whether it's me or somebody I love or somebody I care about, it's like there will be a moment, and it's that kind of thing that really is heavy and is hard to ignore sometimes. You know, but it's okay though. I think the more you can kind of face those things and like be prepared for that, and see the beauty in the impermanence, because it's another one of those dualities where if everything was permanent, nothing would have any meaning at all. Nothing. Because, well, it's going to last for absolutely fucking ever, so what's the point? There is a point. There is a purpose that comes with the impermanence and the finity of life, not as a human. So I think that's one thing that I struggle with, but also keeps me motivated as well. And I think for the final thing would probably be, what do I struggle with? I think this kind of deep sense of loneliness as well. And again, all of these things that I'm listing are these dualities of they're good and they're bad, and they're like I would not be where I am without any of these things. But I think what I've realized is, like, because of my upbringing, or just because of my life as a child, because like the first like bit of your life is so fucking key, and like you're shaped and you're molded very deeply, so anything you experience will stay with you forever. So I think, like, unless you really go deep and like try to find those things, and I'm talking about more so things that like hinder you in your current life, I think a lot of them do stem from like how your psyche was programmed when you're a child. And I've had to do like a lot of I'm just trying to like research that kind of thing, because there's been a lot of things that I'm just like, I don't know why I am this way. It's an automatic response, and I need to figure out why. Because when you figure out why and what may have caused it, it's like your brain is like, oh, okay, cool, like just store it now and you can just carry on, you're fine. But I think what kind of, and again, like I talk about my family, and my family, like, you know, they see my stuff and they hear my stuff, and like the reason I'm so open about it is like I love them. It's nothing to do with that. It's just I think it's very important to be on, like, to share the things, you know what I mean? And that's kind of like what I try to do. But like, you know, for various reasons and for whatever reasons, it's like I think I had a lot of like uncertainty as a kid, like as far as like, because all that matters like when you're born is like you need your mother, you need your whoever's there when you're born, like they are what's going to keep you alive. So if they're caring for you and holding you, you know that you're safe, you know that you're not going to die, and that's like pretty much all you know, or all you have like instinctually, like pretty much like when you're born. So it's like if your caretaker goes, it's like, why do you start crying? Because you think you're gonna fucking die. And so I think and this is like, I think a lot of people have these kind of issues now, like nowadays with like families. It's like when you're really young, and the only people you know that are going to keep you alive, which are your parents or whoever's taking care of you, if they're gone, it's not like you know why. It's not like you can understand like what, like, you know, parents fighting is, or like people getting divorced is. You don't fucking understand that shit when you're a kid. All you understand is like they're gone, oh, they're here for a minute and they're gone again, and you do kind of start to feel like it's your fault for whatever reason, because you don't understand the outside factors. So I think I experienced a lot of that kind of thing when I was young. And again, like, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody, because everyone is a human, even your parents. So it's like whatever they were going through at the time, they had to go through. And you know, I think that's also important to remember, is like when that kind of thing happens, you have to also try to at least show some compassion and show some love, because it's like if you ever go through a point in your life where you really hurt somebody, you make a stupid ass decision, you know, which we all do, like all of us fucking do. Why do you do that? Like, it's not like you chose to do. It's not like you woke up and were like, oh, I'm gonna fucking ruin somebody's life today, or I'm going to make a stupid decision today, or I'm going to, like, you know, destroy my kid's well-being today. You know, most of the time I would say you didn't consciously choose that. So I think it's important to try to remember that, like, there's a reason that people go through things, and in a way it's kind of out of their control at points. So it's not like I'm sitting here trying to blame anybody. And I have a great relationship with both my parents now, which is really nice. But anyway, what I'm saying is, like, that really affected me, and still does, because it's like this very deep sense of like just loneliness, because it's like I think I was very conditioned to feel like people are just gonna go, people are gonna leave, and I think a lot of you guys can probably relate to this, because it can really fuck with a lot of things in your life, and it can cause you to self-sabotage very good things in your life. Because you're conditioned that way. You're conditioned that everyone's gonna leave you. You're conditioned that nobody really truly means it when they say they love you. You know, people are going to be there for a little bit and then they're going to be gone. It's very easy to focus on the fact that they're going to be gone. And again, that's kind of the whole impermanence thing. So these are a lot of things that I have struggled with my entire life, and I've actively really had to do work on myself to fix these things, because really I would say more like heavily in the last like 6 months I've had to do this, because it's such a heavy thing. That's really probably one of the main things that's fucked with me in my life. So I've really had to actively do work to try to understand it and try to just fix it, you know what I mean? And I've definitely like made a lot of progress, and I don't know exactly what happened in the last 6 months, but like I feel like I said, like I've grown like exponentially, like more than I have in my whole fucking up to that point. I feel like I've grown in a lot of ways, and in that way specifically as well. Like it's such like I feel so much more like inner peace now, and just peace with that, because I just don't feel that way anymore. You know, I feel like I've kind of reconditioned myself in a lot of ways to just be in the moment, and just like if somebody is like there, like, you know, just like allow that to be there for the time that it's there, and like just worrying about this conceptual future that doesn't really exist is just literally just going to ruin everything in your life. So anyway, but that's still something that I think like deep down, you know, it's just like I'm probably always gonna feel lonely. It's like no matter who I'm around or what I'm doing, or like, you know, how good my life is, I think there's always gonna be this sense of like something that I never had. You know, it's like I can never go back and have that as a kid. I can never have like a consistent, you know, secure base. You know, it's just, it wasn't present in my life at that point, so it's never going to be, if that makes sense. So there's some people, they have that, you know, when they're kids and when they're young, and you will be completely different if you do have that or if you don't. And I think a lot of people nowadays don't have that, and we're a little fucked up from it, you know. But at the same time, it's like that's what's led me to do what I do, so it's fine and it's cool. I've come to peace with it. But I just think there's a lot of things that maybe if you have struggles now, you have to just remember, like, there are things that caused you to be a certain way, and you can go back and try to figure out what those things are. Like, if you're really unhappy with yourself, don't just accept it, you know. If there's things that like you don't like about yourself, fucking sit down with them and figure out why you are the way you are. Because the more you at least just like understand why, it just alleviates it. Like it makes you feel less like you are that thing. It's like, oh, there's actually like a logical reason, like why I have these mannerisms or why I think these thoughts, because back when I was 2, you know, this thing happened and it programmed me and it traumatized me, because at that point I didn't have any context for it. I had no understanding. I just felt the direct experience of that event, and that stuck with me, you know. And so you can go back and you can figure those things out, and like don't just try to do it on your own. Like if you can, it's like go talk to somebody. Like it's important. Like fucking talk to somebody, you know what I mean? Like that's why those people exist. But I think just realize like you can reprogram yourself, you can change yourself, and it's just always a constant work in progress. For me too, it's just like I really do want to get better and just like grow more, and sometimes I feel frustrated because it's like I don't know what the fuck to do next, and like I just have this constant like I need to go, I need to do something, I need to like expand, and like sometimes I think those thoughts so often that I don't end up doing anything, you know what I mean? So it's like I really have to be careful with that. But yeah, I don't know, I wanted to talk about that, and actually that was really felt good to do. So thank you for watching. I hope this helped a little bit. And just to remember, man, it's such a cliche and it's so easy to forget, but like we're all like relatively the same no matter what we do, and our society fucking skews a lot of stuff for us, man. A lot. Social media, man, it's changed our brains as well. And there's this constant feeling of not being good enough, because no matter how successful you are, there's always somebody who looks like they're more successful than you. There's always somebody with more followers than you. Always. So it's very easy to constantly feel like you're not good enough, and the fact that people really most of the time only do share the good parts of their life or stage things so that their life looks fucking awesome all the time. And that's a natural thing to do with social media, so, you know, whatever. But you just gotta remember that. It's like, just think about if that didn't exist, like how much happier you'd probably be. Because, like, let's just say you were successful in what you were doing, you felt good, and let's just say you were like a successful photographer in your town, and everybody knew who you were, and like you were getting work from people. You would feel great. But then it's like, now because we have social media, there's like, oh, you're only successful in your town. Oh, you only have 200 followers. Like, let's just say you had 200 clients in your town and they all followed you. Now it's like, oh, you only have 200 followers. I have fucking 10,000. Like, you're nothing. Literally, like, there's this whole other thing that's introduced that will make us feel small, no matter what you're doing. So I just think it's very important to try to constantly be aware of these things, because like the more you can remind yourself, the more you're gonna make it easier to navigate through life now, because it's fucking crazy. But yeah, so hopefully this helped, guys. Thanks for watching. It really means a lot to me. Thanks for listening too. But yeah, just if you feel in a certain way, like, just don't just ignore it, you know. Don't just be like, oh, that's just how I am. You know, if there's something that really bothers you, figure it out, or try to, or talk to somebody, or just YouTube it. Like, I feel this way, or why do I feel this way? How do I stop feeling this way? And I guarantee there's someone else out there who's made a video on how to change the way you feel, because fucking everybody feels generally the same shit in life. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's about it for now. Thank you guys again. Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. No, not really. Not really. I guess, like, right now I'm really kind of not like, yeah, struggling a little bit, I guess, with just like, I feel like I'm overwhelmed with shit I have to do and stuff I have to take care of, and stuff that I'm behind on, and emails I have to reply to, and like people I haven't replied to for a while, and like I just have so much shit that I'm like, I have to do, to the point where sometimes it can cause me to feel like you know, less than I am, or I've fucked up, or you know what I mean, like that kind of shit. So I think I'm just really trying to get through this kind of workload that I have at the moment, which I guess I always have, and I do it to myself, you know what I mean. But anyway, I guess like what I'm trying to say is, like, I do still really want to find a way to help people more. And I think it's not, like, as far as like business shit goes, and as far as like this kind of stuff, like I think I've had to learn how to roughly like operate a business and like run it, look at things as a business, and I've made a lot of mistakes with that. But it's not my forte, you know what I mean? And my forte, I think, is like being passionate with this kind of shit, and trying to have conversations with people, and to play music, and just to like be like experiencing things. And that's what I really want to lean more towards at some point. I don't know how exactly to do that, but I've really been thinking it would be so amazing to do, just to get out there in the world. Like, I don't know what cities or where, but just like to find a place to do like an event in different cities, like a youth center, like a church. I'm not like religious, but just that kind of environment, like just a good positive environment. Like, I don't want to fucking try to host this kind of event at like some grimy pub or like some fucking rundown venue. I don't want to do that, because the environment really does have an impact. So I've been thinking, like, I would love to, and I know there will be a way when the time comes where I can do it, but just an event where I can maybe handpick like an author who's written about this kind of thing, or like someone who does like spoken word stuff, or just someone who's like just a speaker, like goes around fucking speaking to people, genuinely, not just like someone who's like, oh, I'm a self-help author, you know, The Secret, blah blah, like download my ebook. I hate that shit. I fucking hate that shit. Not that kind of thing, but somebody who genuinely is just like a human trying to do these things and like find a way to help people, like just to and all, you know, maybe a couple musicians too, but like I don't want it to be just like a tour, because I sometimes feel like tours just, they don't have a purpose. They don't feel like they have a purpose, and I think a lot of you guys probably like enjoy them a lot, and like my live shows, like the most you know, response I've gotten from my live shows is like they really mean a lot and they have an impact and they're good, and I think that's awesome. But to me, it's like I'm like, well, why am I out here playing shows? Like, why can't I go out, like, fucking fly across the country, across the world? Like, while I'm there, I might as well fucking sit down and talk to people. Because, like, yeah, I can play a half hour, an hour set of songs that you have to interpret and kind of piece together. But it's like, why don't we just sit down and be like, hey, alright, we're a bunch of humans in the same room. What's going on? You know, what can we talk about? How can we all leave here feeling better and having a better perspective and a better understanding? Like, I want to do that. I want to not just be someone who just plays music, you know. You know, if I did that, because I would be there, I would obviously play some songs, but something that's like there's enough time to have an in-depth conversation to where everybody gets their 10 cents in and can say what they need to say or ask what they need to ask, and we can try to, you know, come to some kind of like answer if you're going through something, or, you know, have somebody there who is like a psychologist or is like, you know, that kind of thing, like just somebody who can actually give you like in-depth answers. Because, you know, I can talk about like the, you know, this kind of stuff that I talk about, but I think I'm not like a licensed therapist, I'm not fucking licensed like doctor, so it's not like I can be like, whoa, this is the reason for this and chemical imbalances in your brain and science stuff. Like, I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like, it's really this thing that's kind of sitting with me, and I want to do really badly is organize something like that. And I honestly, ultimately, like, I don't want people to have to pay for it either. I don't want it to be you have to buy tickets for this. And, like, you know, at the end of the day, it's like I mainly have to do that because, like, you know, I have to make a living. I have to like be able to actually do it. But just to try to find some way where it's like anyone can actually come and it's reasonable, or like I don't even want. I'd really just like to find a way to not people don't have to pay for it, to be honest. But I just have this desire, man. Like, just want to fucking get out there and like connect with you guys, like really do it. Cause like I just don't want it to be like, oh yeah, after the show, Braden's gonna be at the merch table for 20 minutes. Like, fuck no, man. I want to actually have hours to sit there and we can all talk and just like fucking be there, man. Because that's it. That's it. It's like if you go and sit with a group of humans that are all like going through some same shit, even if like everyone's happy, that's good too. But just to sit there and be reminded that like, oh, like you're human, I'm human. We're all, you've gone through this, I've gone through this. Like, oh, you're doing this with your life, that's cool. I'm also doing this. Oh, maybe we could work together, like that. Like, just to be in a group of people and leave with that feeling of like, I am not alone in this universe. How valuable is that? Like, that's gonna change your whole fucking day. That's gonna change possibly your whole week, your whole month. It could change your life. And potential connections you can make, like just friendships you can make, like who knows, man. It's just like little things though. And I think to do that in as many places as possible, and then to also have the whole thing connected in a way, it could be very, very powerful. And I think people probably do this all the time, or try to do this, or maybe there's bigger things. I don't really fucking care though. I'm talking about what I want to do in the way that I see it, and I don't want to compare it to other things. But it's just, it is something that I feel I'm being pulled to investigate and to formulate. So yeah, alright. This has been a long one, so I'm gonna end it. Alright, I love you guys, I really do. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I will see you next week on Coffee Thoughts. Stay cozy, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.